Good evening and welcome to Inside Government, a show for the spring 2023 semester here at Cayuga Community College and broadcast on Spectrum, Verizon Fios, the Auburn Regional Media Access, better known as ARMA, as well as Win 89.1, the college's radio station. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. We are delighted to have back in the studio Cayuga County Legislative Chairman David Gould, who is in his second year as chairman of the 15-member legislature that will see major changes in the next year. One of those changes is he's not seeking re-election. It will be a smaller board in January, going from 15 to 11, and he has decided not to seek re-election, which we will talk to him about for a few minutes. But we also want to talk about a couple of things that he was on last time about, which included the management of the county, as well as what to do with the county office building. And we'll cover a couple of other things, including the budget. First of all, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Guy. It's just a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. I guess, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. I finished my second year in January, December 31st, and I've decided, as you said at the beginning, I think I'm done with politics for a while.
So why did you decide? So you were in one of those elections where it was a short two-year, because
Right.
it's normally a four-year term.
Right.
But the idea was they were going to go to two in case the referendum, which we'll talk about, passed, which it did.
Yep.
So why did you decide 2 years is enough?
I don't know. Because the next one will be for 4, and I'd be in my 80s by the time I got done with that.
Well, 80s is the new 70s or the 60s.
I understand, but I've never been retired.
Well, I was going to say this. So this is what will, in essence, be your third public retirement.
Yeah.
You were a decorated trooper for many
35 years.
years. You
Yeah.
were sheriff of this county for, 12?
Yeah.
And now a shorter stint as county chair.
Mhm.
Is this your last of the appointed or elected public offices?
I've learned through politics to never say never.
Okay.
And I'm sure you have done that too. Many people have, but I'm not anticipating anything. But if something comes, I will certainly do it.
But you serve on, most likely in Cayuga County, you serve on more boards than anybody else in the county.
It's been over 30 for a long time.
So you're on a lot of not-for-profit
Committees,
boards. Do you still expect to?
Yes, absolutely.
So your wife Suzanne still expects that you will leave the house to go to board meetings.
And she wants me to join more boards.
Join more boards. Any travel plans in retirement?
No. Sue's still working. She works at Cayuga Counseling. She's an HR director there. So no, I'm not a big traveler. I love this community and I love staying here.
So you've been been a couple of events in the last, the hospital groundbreaking, which you're on the board for there, and the hospital dinner.
Mm-hmm.
You have been very public about your health. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling?
I've got a couple of things, but everybody does. I just had surgery. I got to have another surgery coming up, but nothing serious. So I'm doing well. All right. I'm doing well. I'll be around a couple more years.
Okay. So let's talk about one of the items that you did want to have accomplished in the 2 years you've been chairman. And again, you decided in January you weren't going to run, but you did decide that you would seek another term as chair of the legislature. Yes. And you were supported for that. Yeah. So one of the changes was this in November was moving back from 15 to 11. There was a close vote in November.
Yeah, I think it was like 20 different, or maybe 30 at the most.
Why so close?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't know the reason for that. It was very close, though.
So how do you, I know you were a supporter of going from 15 to 11. How do you think that will help Cayuga County govern itself?
I've always said smaller government is better government. I really have. I mean, 11 legislators can represent all our townships just as good as 15. They get added one more township, but they can represent these towns just as good as there was in 15. The more people you have, the more different ideas you have, which is good, but still, larger government is just not. I don't believe in it.
So one of the
I believe Washington. Not to interrupt you, guys. Okay. Washington's got too many people.
So they may have more than we want today, but that's a couple of quick questions on just structure about how this works. First of all, is there anything you have to do this year to get ready from 15 to 11 than maybe moving 4 desks at some point?
No, that's really all it is.
That's all. Yeah. So originally, one of the questions back in October, November was if you went from 15 to 11, you would have some people running against each other. Mm-hmm. 3 of you have already decided you're going to do something different. Right. Christine Calarco is running for City Hall, so she's not seeking re-election in the city. Chris Petras is running for county clerk, so he's not going be running in the Brutus seat. You obviously are not running. Does that mean anybody is?
And Trish.
And Trish Kerr, and so who is a member of the college board of trustee.
Right.
So at this point, no member of the legislature is running against another legislator?
Well, it depends on who runs up north. Up
Okay.
north, there's Andy still representing up north, and those townships are going to
Andy
be
Dennison
combined.
and Cato.
And Jim Basile is going to be, combining those counties. So one of those two will probably have to run against each other. Whether it be on the same ticket or not, I don't know.
And Mr.
If they decide to run.
And also, Mr. Basile is facing a primary in the Republican Party.
Yes.
So that's the one seat that's questionable.
Right.
And it is odd that in some cases you have nobody running. You only have one person running for some. We won't know them until later next month.
Right. Exactly.
So people are still passing petitions.
And I don't think the Democratic parties. I don't think they're finalized picking all their people, and I know the Republican Party is not finalized, especially in the city.
In the city. So you expect some competitive races in the city.
There will be.
Okay, because so far there's only one, I believe.
I think there'll be more than that.
Okay.
I believe there will be.
Okay. So I'm assuming, but I want to confirm, these who runs in November are running for 4-year terms.
Yes.
And will they still be term limited? In
Will
the
they
sense of can they
three-
only serve?
12.
They can only serve
12 years.
12 years on that.
And that can always be changed because that's a local law.
That's a local law.
That can always be changed.
I want to get to the two other items that are part of your triumvirate, but you've got some things that you've been working on. You've had some good news on grants.
Yes.
Especially with Fire Academy. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Senator Schumer's been very good with us with grants. We got some information just today from Senator Gillibrand, and certainly Congressman Katko helped us immensely. He's the one that got us the $1 million for the radios for our 911 center that'll help our firemen in this county. And we got $2 million from Senator Schumer for our Dreams project, which is the digital project in the county clerk's office. So there'll be no more hard copies. They'll all be digitalized. Sorry,
Okay.
I can't even. But that'll save the county actually millions.
Okay.
It really will over a period of time.
And what about
And
this
that's
academy?
all paid for.
That's all paid for. And what about the Fire Academy?
Fire Academy, we wanted to start building that very quickly. The architect has already given us all his specs, but we're waiting for another grant in the fall for the year of 2024.
And where would this go?
Right where the Fire Academy, right where the fire tower is now on York Street.
Okay.
That it'll be all remodeled up there, and it'll be beautiful. Every fire department in the county, plus the city, uses it a lot.
And while you are not necessarily funding it at this particular stage, you and the county legislature are very supportive of the law enforcement academy that's going up in Oswego.
Absolutely, yes.
And you have a background in that. So why is that important to both Oswego and Cayuga County?
It is because we don't have it here in Cayuga County, but it is affiliated with the college, with our Cayuga Community College. So it'll give our deputies and other surrounding deputies a closer place to go. A lot of times I had to send, when I was sheriff, we had to send our deputies for training down to Broome County. And, in Canandaigua over at...
And sometimes you got to wait to get into those academies.
Absolutely. A lot of times they're full. So this will be much more convenient that our local people can drive, 30 miles up to Oswego and be able to go to an academy up there. That'll be great.
So if you get the grant in the fall for the Fire Academy, should that cover most of the cost or all of it?
It will cover, I believe, all the cost.
Okay.
Yep, that's what we applied for, and I'm pretty confident we're going to get it. It's nothing's final,
Right.
with grants.
Not in the grants
but
world.
I'm confident we're going to get that.
So in this particular phrase of building, let's talk about the one big item, 160 Genesee Street, the county office building. So last time you were in here in the fall, just before the budget, you had said there were problems with the structure. For those who are not aware and may not have tuned in the past, what is the problem with the current building?
Well, let me tell you, if you work there every day, the windows, there's snow blowing through the windows. I mean, it's outdated. It was built in the 60s. The structural part is great. It really is. There's nothing wrong. Actually, they built buildings better back then than they do now, structural-wise. But the interior-wise is really falling apart. The windows, as I said, cold air comes through the windows. There's the heat. We've had problems with the heat. We had problems with the air conditioner this summer. I had to actually send people home because it was 85 degrees in the county office building.
And you've had trouble with the roof in the past.
And the elevators. We've had people stuck on the elevators.
So there's been usually about 3 or 4 different choices. I think you outlined 4 choices back in the fall. You could renovate the building. You could build a building next door in the parking lot that you have, and then knock down the current building and make that the parking lot. You could move, and I know this is something that's been talked about. You have not been very supportive of moving and creating a building out on County House Road next to your old office at the Sheriff's Department, or renting space at the Finger Lakes Mall. Are those still the main?
No, we're down to 2.
Okay, so what are the 2?
The 2 are to restructure the current building. I'd leave the foundation there, but refurbish every floor. And the second one is to build a 3-story rectangle around the south side and the west side. It's 3 stories.
So closer to Seymour Library. And
yes.
In your parking area.
Yes.
Would you still knock down?
No, it would be part of this building.
Okay.
It would give us more room, which is what we need. And when the best part of it, I think, is, and I'm for that 100%, is
so you like
the roundabout. We call it the round.
Okay, yeah. So you like the round option.
And the reason is because they would finish that first, and we can move, as we do each floor, we can move those employees into that building, into the new part. We wouldn't have to find somewhere else to rent and move them away from the whole building. It would be, it'd be devastating for the workers. It'd be just.
And you also need more space.
We do.
So I've been in the county office building, and people are on top of each other.
Yeah, they are. I mean, there's a lot of space there, but county government has grown, as every government has. But we do need more space, so we'd like to bring some more departments into our county office building so we can save some rent other places.
So you would give up rentals at other places and consolidate those parts. Yep. So in doing that, where are you in the process of going with let's say option A is the renovation of just the building, or the roundabout is option B? Where are you in that process?
We have picked a company, an architectural company, Bergman it's called, out of Rochester. We had 4 companies apply, and there was quite a difference in what they wanted.
So you've awarded the bids already.
We've awarded the bid for the architect.
Okay.
And the design, we're going to have a meeting. It's very, very timely that you're talking about this, because we will have a meeting with Bergman probably within 2 weeks. We're going to sit down with them and tell them exactly how we want this structured. And they're going to give us an architectural price for 2 things. Remodeling the building as the way it is, and the structure around.
Do you have any idea how much this might cost at this stage?
We're talking probably $25 to $35 maybe $1 million.
With either project?
The remodeling would probably be cheaper.
Okay.
But the trouble is, if you remodel, you have to move everybody out because of the danger that it causes, and we'd have to find a place for 700 employees.
Does that mean if you went with the roundabout, would the thought be that you change the 6th floor and it becomes, you may move that over to the new spot as well?
There could very well be a lot of changes.
Because you don't have a lot of, and I know this sounds to most people horrendous, why would you need it? You don't have a lot of conference room space in your building.
We don't. And, people, I've talked about it, and of course this is nothing in stone because we need to get the architectural drawings and find out what they are. But, that doesn't mean that the chambers has to be on the 6th floor.
Right.
I mean, that could be moved down to the 1st floor. I mean, I've talked about that with our committees, so people don't have to travel up the elevators and go to the 6th floor.
And how will you pay for this? Oh, go ahead.
That's going to be, Lynn has worked out the budget.
Lynn Marinelli is your budget person.
County budget person. It will certainly go out, we're going to have to check a lot of financial checkings. I mean, a lot of financial.
You'll most likely have to bond for this.
We got to bond. It depends on where we bond. Yeah,
okay.
We're going to have to bond. I mean, you can't do something that big without bonding.
Do you think you can make a final decision this year?
Yes.
That's your goal?
That's my goal, absolutely.
So it's not only to have Bergman come back with a design, but it's to approve that design. Do you think you would go out as far as awarding bids this year?
I'm hoping by January 1st, these bids will be gone.
It might be a long December for some people.
It could be. I'm hoping before that.
Okay.
I think I remember, or I do remember talking to you when I came on last show, and anybody that'll listen to me, I've told them, this has been going on since 2004. Since I became sheriff and was going to these county meetings, they talked about it back in 2004, about remodeling, doing
2
something
decades
with
is
it.
enough. You want it brought to conclusion.
Yeah, that's plenty long enough, and it needs to be done for safety.
So the other, what I'll call the triumvirate of issues that you wanted to deal with was the issue of county management and deal with how day-to-day operations occur. So back about a year ago, Shireen Andrusco left the DMV downstairs, came up upstairs as your new operations officer.
Yep.
Are her duties in place of what you have as a county administrator? Because that was a position that was created. It became vacant in the spring of 2019, so we're literally going on 4 years now. Is that when Justin Woods left? Is she the new county administrator, but not by title?
No, she answers directly to the chair of the legislature.
Okay.
And that's what the resolution said for hiring an operations officer. She answers directly to the chair. So the chair is the county administrator now, if you want to use that word.
Okay. Well, I want to say that there's usually 3 options out there, and there's been 3 options kicking around since even before Justin Woods left.
Time.
I mean, it goes back to 2 or 3, even since the first.
Tom was there.
Tom. Everybody back years. It's gone back. You can have a county administrator, which is not a county manager. It's different because you have to do some
There's different
charter
specs.
issues. Or you could create, and those are appointed by the legislature, whether it's a county administrator, which we have the position, or a county manager, which you would have to change, or you could go to a county executive, which is elected by the people in general. So last time we talked, you would like to bring this to conclusion one way or the other to come up with a structure. Am I correct? Is that still your plan?
It's still my plan. Whether that'll happen by the end of the year, I'm not sure. I'm under the impression that I would like the new legislature to do that, because they're the ones that are going to have to work with it.
Okay.
I mean, if 15 of us voted for something and we won the majority and the new 11 didn't want it that way, they're the ones that are going to work with it, not the ones that are leaving.
Gotcha. So in doing that, you would have to do most likely a charter change.
You would.
So would that mean that you would appoint a charter commission this year, or would you say whoever your successor is in January?
It would be next year.
Next year, and so it most likely would not then get onto the ballot until 2024.
November 2024.
Is there a preference you have?
Not really. I mean, you've got several county executives in the state, and you know that, and most people do, I think. Ryan McMahon, we all know he's a county executive in Ontario or in Onondaga County. He does a great job, but again, it is elected by the majority of the people in our county. It's not chosen by the legislature. So that would have to go up for an election. You have to find the right person. You really do.
Do you think within the 80,000 people of Cayuga County, or 70 whatever, there's the right person for that?
I'm sure there is. We have some great people in this community, absolutely great people.
You're not running for that position?
No, I am not.
Thought I better just
not at this time. No, I'm not.
Not at this time.
No, I really.
That's your wife calling right now.
No,
but in doing this, there are some pros and some cons. County executive is a strong leader, and sometimes the legislature butts heads, and the legislature, which is very committee-centric here, will not always get their way.
Absolutely. You lose the legislature loses a lot of authority.
And that's been the challenge.
That's been the challenge.
But on the other side, you can point to the county executives who have been able to bring in money.
Oneida County's been great.
And resources that when there's a problem or a situation, they have been in a better position to deal with those crises.
Very true.
Do you think there is, and again, you are going to change at least a third of the members of the legislature at this stage.
Right.
Because of the Basile-Dennison issue, at least one third of the legislature will change.
And I have no idea what.
Is there any consensus?
I don't believe there is at this time, Guy, because we just haven't discussed it that much at this time. I know Chris Petras is definitely in favor of it, but Chris is leaving. Everyone knows.
In favor of a county executive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, he's leaving to run for county clerk. So I don't think anybody else is totally opinionated. There needs to be a lot of education before we make up and it won't be me. I'm still saying it'll be the new legislature.
Do you think you'll advocate for something that come next year?
You know, I probably will. I have not totally made up my mind yet. And again, it's because of the authority that the legislators, and they're picked by a small community.
Right.
We're not Onondaga County. Every legislator knows probably everybody in their district. And that's good because they know how to represent those people. If you get a county administrator, that person may not know anybody.
Well,
south of the city, north of the city.
So back in the fall, when we had the forums here, for the forums that we did, I don't think there was any consensus.
There wasn't.
And so that's what I think a building is easier.
A building's
Changing
much easier.
a structure.
It is. You don't lose any authority with a building.
With a building. Okay. Let's talk about a couple things we haven't talked about because you were last here before the budget was approved.
Yes.
The budget was approved.
Budget was approved.
Was it unanimous?
I believe Andy,
Okay.
Dennis, but Andy does that every year,
Okay.
so that's okay. And Andy's Andy. He's opinionated, and I respect him very much for that.
So did property taxes go up?
No.
Was there anything in the budget from your perspective that people should be aware of?
No, not really. I think it's a great budget. We some of the department heads were, disappointed is a strong word, wanted things that they couldn't get, that we just couldn't do. But most things that they wanted, we could do. We had a great year for revenue last year. And I think this year starting off is a great year for revenue.
Well, I was going to say, you're not through your first quarter
Right.
yet. You've got 9 more days, 10 more days
Yep.
on that. Does it look like, from what you've been told by your budget people, that sales tax, which is something you heavily rely on,
Absolutely.
that seems to be still solid at this stage,
yes,
even
it
with
is.
inflation
It is.
and the economy?
We can't, it's too early to certainly say anything specific, but I'm very confident that we're going to have a good year this year.
Yeah, how do you think will make out in the state budget? Because I know there's been some. Assembly Leader Minority Leader Barkley was
Barkley,
here 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
One of his concerns is Medicaid, and I
Yep.
believe that's
Big
I want to
concern.
say a $1.1 million.
It's 1 point closer to 1.8 for us.
A 1.8 for you. So one of the questions is that the governor has proposed, and we don't know what will go on. Again, 10 more days for the budget. That money that would normally come to counties would
Be kept by the state.
it'd stop in Albany. It would
Yeah.
not be going down the thruway.
Absolutely.
So what are you and the Association of Counties arguing?
Well, we're all sending resolutions naturally to the governor. This is not the way the federal government set it up. They set it up to go to the states, to be an intermediate, to send it to the counties. And now if the states keeps it, I don't see anything illegal, but it's just not, it's not moral.
So this is the history lesson that everybody wants to not talk about in 1960 whatever.
Yeah.
So originally in some states it is half the money comes from Washington and the other half goes to the states. New York is one of those oddities where for the longest time it was half state of New York, half federal government, quarter New York State, quarter your local communities being your counties. And then about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, there was a change because counties were getting whacked heavily.
Yep.
And property taxes were going through the roof.
Sky high, yes.
And the state was going to pick up more and more of that. This would be a major shift for the state.
Absolutely. Totally different. It would kill, wrong word, I should never use that word. It would hurt every county, not just Cayuga County, every county immensely. I mean, some of these big counties would be losing not 1.8.
Right, it's tens of
They'd
millions.
be losing tons of millions.
So one of the questions that I had for Will Barkley and he was not sure how your budget worked, so it was unfair to ask him that question, was you passed a budget back in December.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that you would, if they took this 1.1, that would be 1.1 that's spread
Budgeted.
over a 9-month period
It's budgeted.
that would impact your budget this year?
Absolutely.
How do you make up for that?
It's a very good question. I mean,
That's why
There's
why they pay me.
there's
here.
very-
Just ask these
I don't
questions.
want to be, pessimistic, but there's very few ways you can make up for it. And you lose that kind of money in a budget. I mean, our budget is a $172 million budget. It's a lot. It doesn't sound like 1.8 is a lot, but it is. Everything else
Well, because a lot of it's designated in
Absolutely.
earmarked money. It's not. You don't have a choice on social services.
we do not have a choice. That's all mandated.
All right. So one of the other items I want to ask you about the budget was there was a question near the end of the process about cutting off or changing the chairman's salary.
Mhm.
Did that amendment go through?
No.
Okay, so
It was voted on.
it was voted on, but it did not pass.
Right,
It was to
right.
reduce that. So the last piece I want to talk about on budget, not so much budget, but it is this ARPA money, this federal money that is coming to counties. And back about a year ago, in fact, 14.9 million, you designated some of that money back a year ago.
Yes.
Where did some of that money go back then?
Some of it went towards the again the digital computerized, which we will get back
Right.
once the federal grant comes through, which we're confident of that. Several of it went to different projects. Some quite a bit went to our small business grant that we've opened up to the city and the county for small businesses. We're still working on that. We've had numerous businesses apply for that. It's a $10,000 max. It was $500,000 that we put towards that, and we opened it up again because it wasn't all gone. So we used $300,000 of it. We got $200,000 left. We'll open it up again for businesses that just didn't have time to apply. And
so you haven't used all the money yet.
we have not used all of it.
You have to make this determination by 2024.
2024, you have to make a determination and use by 2026.
By 2026.
Yep.
Do you think the legislature, how much is left roughly to?
Probably $2 million.
$2 million. Do you think you'll make those decisions this year?
Yeah, I believe so.
And what?
I have a committee that does all the footwork, and then they bring it back to the full edge.
Okay, so is it? Oh, so it's a legislative committee that's.
Yes.
So what are they looking at as priorities right now?
I honestly don't know. I mean, they don't come and report to me all the time. They report, quarterly back to us.
So I know school districts have been having this problem where there's been some question about money coming from Washington that went to buildings versus remediation and helping kids where there's learning loss. It's a little different for the county. Can you use it for capital?
No, absolutely not for capital itself. But I mean, there's different
categories. So you couldn't
categories.
use it to defray the cost of the county office?
We could, absolutely.
You can?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So
we were going to use some of it for the fire tower.
Okay, so you might be able to use part of that money.
We could, but it would be
you
a drop in the bucket. We'd rather use it for other
direct benefits
to the community, to businesses. That's where I want to use it. Those are the ones that got hurt during COVID, and a lot of them got hurt badly, as you know.
Well, Chairman, 30 minutes goes very quickly. I'd love to have you back in the fall for a final
I will come back
update.
for the next 9 months, every month if you want.
Okay, so our guest has been Cayuga County Chairman David Gould, who has joined us over the last half hour to give us a legislative update about what's going on in the legislature, what's planned. Good luck with your procedure later this month, and stay well. We will be back in just a moment with Cayuga Community College's Director of Telecommunications, Professor Steve Keeler, and Film Director and Brunel Visiting Scholar, Locke Phillips, to discuss his documentary, The Utica Last Refuge, about the refugees from Sudan in central New York. We'll return this Thursday with 3 back-to-back Beyond the Front Pages, partially due because of the snowstorm a week ago. You'd never know it this Tuesday as you walked out the door. But the first will feature Tyburn Academy Principal Connor O'Donnell and seniors Matthew Leary and sophomore Madeline Wyrick to talk about Tyburn Academy. Then we'll have the Gaverson Center's Executive Director, Danielle Wright, and Community Liaison, Bob Padula, to give us an update on the center. And our third show, which we had to move from last week, will be featuring Father Vasil Koplanek of St. Peter and Paul Ukrainian Church with Ukrainians Olena Obrovina and Mariana Savarin. I'm trying to discuss the war in Ukraine that is over a year old now, and what is occurring in Auburn with the Ukrainians who have immigrated here, and also how is Auburn and Cayuga County helping those people in Ukraine. In the coming weeks, we'll have in the studio Cayuga County District Attorney Brittany Antonacci. It'll be her first appearance here in the studio. City Manager Jeff Dygert and Auburn School Superintendent Jeff Carazola and District Business Manager Lisa Green to talk about the Auburn budget that will go before voters in May. And then the Auburn Large School District Forum is scheduled for Tuesday, May 9th here in the studio. If you'd like to send us your questions or thoughts for guests for the coming weeks and next semester, please feel free to contact us at either Inside Government or Beyond the Front Page at cozguytho@aol.com. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. I want to thank you for watching. Stick around to listen to our next interview with Steve Keeler and film director Locke Phillips. But otherwise, we'll be back in the studio on Thursday. Have a good night.